Dungeons and Dragons is broken down into three major categories. I'm not talking about per table or how you play. I'm talking about mechanically. I'm saying there are three major mechanics that make Dungeons and Dragons what it is. And those mechanics can be separated or they can be the same. And so one is combat. And so that is your rolling d20 to hit and that kind of thing. The other one is your basically your skill checks. So skill checks are integrated into both combat and role playing, and it's ability checks, skill checks. We're not arguing semantics here. That is a separate section that does not influence the combat mechanics. And then there's the third. That's the magic system. The magic system is crappy in Dungeons and Dragons because it's developed around a balancing system for balancing in the combat mechanics, but not the social mechanics. And so magic in itself tried to balance across the entire game. And so those three systems, those three things are intertwined in different ways. However, if you removed the magic from Dungeons and Dragons completely, every single spell, and you replaced it with spells that do appropriately the same amount of damage or the same things, but function slightly differently as terms of using, spell slots, whatever it may be, you're not changing a whole lot of the game. You could be thematically. In fact, that's what I did. I removed a lot of the spells in Dungeons and Dragons and completely redid the system. And this was just over years. I have never published it. It's never something that's been I've put out there or even talked about because what I did was making spells more creative, meaning that yes, for example, you can use shape water to encircle someone's head, but it takes someone very skilled to try to drown them that way. And so that became an arcane check, which then integrated skills, which I pulled skills out. And what I ended up with was not a system like anything else. It still felt very much Dungeons and Dragons because all the skills and developments and magic stayed the same and the overall functions did. So it still played like Dungeons and Dragons, but effectively it was a different game. I went out and searched. It wasn't Pathfinder. It wasn't GURPS. It wasn't Rifts. It wasn't Masquerade. It wasn't Daggerheart. It wasn't any of these systems. And as I went through my notes for years of developing this, I realized that the system became what I wanted to play. And I've only introduced bits and pieces of this to people over the years because I haven't put it all together yet. And I also had there's some things that I have to do to fine tune the balancing act of it. But the bottom line is it feels like D&D. And so when we're talking about the feel of how a game is played, is there another game that could replace this? Not really, because it doesn't do what I wanted it to do. And that's one of the things about homebrewing. Homebrewing allows us to have the game we want.